It's already recording.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's already recording.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. So they're auditory listeners. So what that means is that you're probably the person that hums when you're learning, or when you're thinking about something, you're humming, you're singing. People think you're not paying attention. Like I'm 60% auditory, and I think a lot of people freak out because I'll be talking and then somebody will be talking back to me. I think Nelson's a really good example. He'll be talking to me, and I'll be like, da, 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 da. I'll just be singing, but I'm listening. You know, don't think I'm not paying attention. I am paying attention, but I am singing to myself, or I'm humming so I can remember what you said. You know? So what does that mean in the class environment? So you learn and you understand better by remembering things that are said verbally, right? So, for example, if your professor is one that doesn't really show a lot of examples on the board, but they'll just keep talking and talking and talking and talking, those classes are usually like the best for you, because you'll be like learning as he's just saying things, you know? You have an easier time understanding spoken instructions rather than written ones. So that can be tricky because in tests, you can't talk, right? Obviously, you can't be talking. But as long as you kind of like maybe mumble to yourself or hear yourself saying it in your head, like you should be able to apply that strategy in tests and quizzes, anything like that, you know? So specifically, you should try to read the directions out loud, maybe record yourself spelling words. So say if you're taking a biology class, right? And you know, those words can be very crazy. You know, I know some of my nursing people in the Zoom understand that some of those words can be crazy sounding, but if you record yourself saying them out, and if you're an auditory listener, you might learn what they mean better. You know, if you apply that method of recording you spelling a word and then understanding what the definition of that word is, that's definitely going to help you. You can also try studying by repeating things out loud to yourself. So for auditory listeners, when you're studying, make sure you're in a room that there's like no distractions and it's like an empty room that you can only hear yourself talk. You know, because the drawback to being an auditory listener is that everything you hear is a distraction. Everything you hear, you know? The only exceptions is sometimes you can listen to music, but you can't be out here listening Cardi B, you know, Bad Bunny. Like that's not the type of music you should be listening to when you're studying, you know? You need to be listening more to
Mozart.
yeah, like Mozart, like perfectly, like Mozart, kind of like maybe piano sounds, you know. And if it is music that they're singing, it's not like something super intensive and something that's super, you know, powerful. You know what I mean? So we'll just move on to the next type of learners. I didn't move. There we go. Visual learners. So I am like 10% visual learner. This entire thing here just gives me a headache. But I put it in here because I know for the visual learners, they will remember this slide just because they see the rainbow kind of passing by. You know what I mean? Because that's how, if you're a visual learner, that's how you are. You close your eyes and you visualize things to yourself. You remember the specific colors. You remember, oh, I saw a bird fly this way and it was pink. You know, you'll remember very small details about stuff like that just because you saw it. You know? But you know, that doesn't mean that you're only stuck to just learning visually. I don't know, let me think of a better way to explain this. So you're somebody who will see things, and people might think you'll get bored of it, but in reality you're trying to understand it well, and you're actually absorbing the material probably better than everybody else, you know? So things of color, things of like language, you know, if you were to read an audiobook, that's probably better for you than actually reading the book, you know? But no, I said that in reverse, I'm sorry. Listening to an audiobook is probably the worst for you, but reading it is better. I said that in reverse. I'm sorry. But how does that apply to school? So if you learn better by pictures or seeing things, the histories are probably the best for you, because there's always pictures of like wars. There's always picture of like historical figures, and if you associate a picture with a fact or a thing that you need to know for school, that's best for you. But what do you do when it's something like maybe philosophy that you can't really picture anything? When you're studying for subjects such as philosophy or other subjects that there's not a lot of pictures that you can put together, I suggest making flashcards and color code. Make sure you color code. One thing about me, I color code everything. Like, you guys should see my planner. I have everything color coded, like to the days, guys. It's bad, but that's because that's how I organize myself. And as a visual learner, you'll find that color coding will help you a lot. So there's this thing. My mom's a psychologist, and my mom always says, red, that's math. Why is red math? Because red is the most bright color. It's the one that kind of brings fear. It's the one that kind of, not fear, but it kind of brings like a sort of like, ooh, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. It's one that it's the color that will draw your attention the most. You know what I mean? So when you color code your classes, and if your math class is red, you'll understand like, oh, this is probably the hardest class. This is the one that I need to pay more attention to. So everything that you do, if it's red for math, that'll kind of like help you associate things. But there are some drawbacks to being visual learners. The same thing, there was a visual drawback for auditory learners. Visual learners, you guys get distracted a lot. You guys are squirrel. You just a squirrel and then you're distracted. So when you're studying, I suggest that you kind of isolate yourself into a corner, maybe not a corner, but maybe to a wall where your only purpose of seeing things is like right here. Like if I was studying, I would just want to kind of stay here, and the only thing I could see is a blank wall. Visual learners, it's also better for you guys if you write things out. So if you're trying to study for like a math exam, and you need to practice on more problems, make sure you write out the problems and not just study how the problems are actually done. If you write down the problems and do the problems again, or do a similar problem again, it's like almost muscle memory that you'll remember how the problem looks and how you solved it. And that all comes from seeing the actual solution and the actual process of doing it at the same time. So enough of this crazy background. We're gonna go into your tactile, your kinesthetic learners. So those big words, what they really mean, those are your hands-on learners. So I'm also very hands-on. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have to be hands-on. But what that means is that you're usually the person who kind of puts things together. You use a lot of logic, a lot of reasoning. If you're not moving around, you're bored. You're just kind of, or if you're like me and you're anxious, you'll get anxious and you just start like, oh, okay, I need to get up, I need to do something, right? But you have to understand that what it is that your brain is trying to connect the subject that you're learning to a movement. If you're hands-on learner, you have to try to connect some sort of movement with what you're learning. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle. So I know some of us, they hate us because we'll tap our pens, we'll keep clicking our pens, we'll be rocking in our chair. I make a lot of noise, and I'm in class and I'm like so self-conscious about it. I'll keep moving. I won't stop moving. And I'll be like scuffling around, and that's because I need to move. Otherwise, I can't learn, and I'm not focusing. Even though I'm moving, believe it or not, I'm focusing. So, what else do you do in the classrooms? You have to, maybe if there's like a project, that's how you learn best. If you have like a project and you're making a solar system, those projects are like the best for you. And if there's any physical activity, let me think. How should I word this? Physical activity helps you a lot if you, Nelson's dancing. So if you're like freaking out or you're like kind of panicking, just moving around or dancing. I know I don't know if any of you guys have seen me like kind of walk around the office or like while I'm studying, I'll be doing this, I'll be just moving around, you know. And it's not because I'm listening to music in my head or I have headphones on. I'm just, you know, I'm connecting memories or I'm relaxing myself by moving, you know. So when you're talking to a hands-on learner, take note of their gestures, you know, because that's how they'll portray themselves to you is with their gestures. You know, with Nelson, I'm very comfortable. I'll be dancing. You know, if I'm with a professor, I'll be like this, but at the same time, kind of rocking back and forth. You know, what does that mean for studying though? It means that for you guys are allowed to chew gum because not everybody's allowed to chew gum. You know, the saying is true. Some people can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You know, if that's you and you're not a hands-on learner, do not chew gum. You cannot chew gum or do anything while you're studying, right? But if you're hands-on, you can. You know, rock in your chair, chew your gum, you know, trace words with your fingers, you know. That might sound stupid, but it actually helps. You know, if you're tracing, I know I do it, and I don't know if anybody else does it. I'll trace math in my head like that. I'll be like Q dot divided by RT. And that's how I kind of like picture math in my head. And that's how I do math in my head. You know? And if you're studying, maybe the visual learners are good at writing things down and learning by writing things down. The hands-on learners, the computer actually helps you better. And that's because you're typing things out and you're associating a movement with what you're learning. You know what I mean? And what you're studying. And we'll go over this right now, but there's also this method called the space method, which means taking frequent breaks. You know, don't forget to take breaks. You know, and that's for everybody in studying, but especially for hands-ons because you want to keep the association of memory to physical activity as much as you can. But if you're just sitting down and constantly moving, that's not going to help you, you know? So we're going to move on to the type of studying methods that you can use. These are kind of the main three ones I want to talk about. And each one's kind of, you'll notice one's for visual learners for sure, one's definitely for hands-on learners, and one's definitely for your auditory listeners. You know, but the one advice, if I could give you guys, if there's one thing you can take away from this, is do not cram. Do not cram your material. You know, the best way of studying is studying with time. And I know that's hard because we all work, we all go to school, you know, life is hard. But that's why we talk about these three techniques that will help ease up on your study, you know. And another thing is, these are only suggestions. If you find a different method that works better for you, or if you can apply certain aspects of these methods to what you're doing now to help you study better, I suggest very highly that you do. Because not everything works for everybody, you know? But if you gain something from this, if I say, hey, color code something and you didn't color code before, but if you start color coding, it's gonna help you, definitely do it. You know, don't be afraid to take things out and adjust them the way that you like it. So our first method is the SQ3R method. It sounds a little crazy, but I'm just gonna go over it like kind of fast and kind of quickly, you know? So the first letter of the SQR method is S, and what that means is surveying. So read the book, kind of skim through it. Don't read the book, skim through the book, maybe look at the pictures. Oh, definitely look at the pictures. You know, if you're a visual learner, definitely look at the pictures. Just go through the chapter, look through the pictures, look at the big bolded letters. You know, if you see a section called integrals and how to divide by parts, like keep track of those big letters and those big charts and the pictures, you know? But you don't have to read the book word by word. You don't do that yet. What you do next after surveying is question. So, you know, kind of ponder what might be said in the chapter, you know? Maybe you have an idea, you know? If you were taking biology and this chapter is about the brain, you know, kind of formulate questions concerning the chapter, like what what parts of the brain control movement, what parts of the brain control thoughts, that's what you would do in this part of the studying method. And then once you start pondering and start kind of like thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to look for, then you start reading the full chapter, and then you start answering the questions that you were thinking about, and if the question's not there, then you can always ask your professor, you can always look it up, or maybe it's another chapter, and that's why you go back to surveying, if you see this kind of, let me see if I can pen, I can, okay. This picture right here, it's not just a cool picture. It's the arrows mean you can go anywhere you want. There's not a right way of doing this method. If you decide to start questioning first before looking through the pictures, or if you start kind of reading before you start questioning stuff, that's okay too. If you're here in the reading section and you realize, oh, I had a question about something else, that doesn't mean you can't come back to question. You can. You can go anywhere between here. But the one suggestion I can give you is that leave review last. For sure, review is last. After reading, you start reciting things. And this is where the visual learners excel the best, is reciting. If you write down your notes and you see your notes and you compare that to the book, that you're associating what you learned with what you wrote with hand movements. You see what I mean? So that's why I say this method is probably the best for the visual learners, because you'll see all your notes, you can read everything. Hi. Wait, just go ahead and just sign this real quick. I apologize. So yeah, when you're reciting, just make sure you discuss the major points. Make your own big bolded letters. I know when I said we were talking about the surveying, that you'll just see you just kind of skim through the big words. And when you're reciting, you're also taking point of your own big words, the big bolded words. If you highlight things, and the last thing you do is review. And this is where you study, kind of quiz yourself, reread portions that you didn't know. And like I said, if you realize here in the review section, oh, where did my pen go? Oh, there it is. So if you're here in the review section, that doesn't mean you can't come back to question. You could even come back to surveying. You can go anywhere in this method. If you can even apply it to a little bit of your studying methods, I'm positive this can help you. So don't freak out thinking this is a one linear line. You go from surveying to questioning to reading to reciting to reviewing. No, you can go everywhere. Just make sure you take good notes and you continue to question what you're going to be learning, So we're going to move on to the next method. This one's a super simple method. It's called the Feynman method. What it is essentially explaining a concept to somebody who doesn't know the concept well. The best example is like if you have a 12-year-old, if you have a middle schooler and an 8th grader here, how would you explain it to them? Granted, I know some of us, like for me, explaining thermodynamics to my little brother isn't probably going to be like super helpful, but this is where auditory learners excel. If you're an auditory learner and you can explain something out loud, that's going to help you better to memorize things, And if you can't, let's say if I can't explain what I'm trying to say out loud, then that's when you try to refine yourself, try to reflect on what you said and think of ways you can kind of fix and improve your explanation, because once you explain it and once you're confident in explaining it, then you truly have mastered what you have learned, So the Feynman technique consists of 4 parts. Choose the concept you want to learn about, explain it to a 12-year-old or somebody who doesn't know it. It doesn't have to be a 12-year-old, obviously, But the next step is reflecting, refining, and simplifying. And your last step is organizing and reviewing. There's not much else to discuss in this one. Like I said, if you're an auditory learner, definitely try this one out. I do it. I have brothers who are also in college, but they're like kind of lower engineering. So if I'm really trying to understand a subject, I'll try to explain to them. If I can't explain to them, and if I didn't make any sense to them, and sometimes I don't, then I realize, okay, maybe I have to go back and kind of really reinforce what I'm learning. You know. So we'll move on to the next technique. This is called spaced practice. You guys signed everything? Hold up, give me a second. Yes. So, okay, so spaced practice. This one is for my hands-on learners. I don't know if you guys remember, I said take your breaks. If you're a hands-on learner, make sure you take your breaks. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle. And this is where spaced practice comes into play. You can take maybe 30 minutes to study one day, 30 minutes to study another day. If you take a break and then study the next day. If like in this figure, you'll see if you study within 2 weeks, you actually study for 4 hours, even though you study for 30 minutes not even every day, you know, you studied 7 days. Out of the whole 2 weeks, you studied 7 days. So using the space practice actually helps because once you get to the test, you actually did study and you studied quite a good amount. But this figure right here is only showing you how to do it in big gaps, right? This is in big gaps of days. You can also do it in half-hour sessions. You know, I'll explain what I do. On the weekends, I'm in charge of the laundry, right? For all my family. I do laundry for everybody. I know it takes an hour and 20 minutes for the laundry cycle to finish. So in those hour and 20 minutes that the laundry cycle finishes, I close myself out and I start studying. And I start doing homework. I do as much as I can in those hour and 20-minute sessions. And once my timer goes off that, oh, the laundry's ready, I go off and I do laundry and I take some time to maybe watch a video while I'm doing laundry, you know, play Pokemon. I'll play Pokemon while I'm doing the laundry. You know, I'm taking my break. I'm giving my brain time to relax and giving my body, especially if I'm hands-on, if I'm a hands-on learner, I'm giving my body the space it needs to relax. Because when you're studying, you're studying, you know, you're not studying. You're studying and you're getting tense. But if you take your break, you'll feel more relaxed and your body will respond better. And then once you get back to your session of studying, you'll realize you're still back at the full focus that you were at the beginning. So that's what I do. Once I'm done playing Pokemon, doing all the laundry, I go back, set my timer up for an hour, 20 minutes, and we're back to studying for those hour and 20 minutes. And then I take another break, and then trust me, it takes the whole weekend to do everybody's laundry. I live in a house with 5 adults, but in those 2 days, I do spend a lot of time studying, and I do spend a lot of time even playing video games. You know what I mean? So it's very rewarding. And even if you don't like video games, as long as you reward yourself with that space and that time to relax and absorb what you were learning and what you were studying, it's gonna help you. So we'll move on to the next one. Definitely make a planner if you're gonna study or do anything in classrooms. I can just tell you right now, you need to make a planner because your college is tough and doing everything in your head, it's not gonna work. And it doesn't matter how well you study. If you study for 8 hours for an exam that's tomorrow, you know, you have to plan better. You have to time yourself. You have to do things in an orderly manner to succeed in all your classes, not in just one, not in just that one test you're gonna do tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna go very quickly over some methods of creating a planner. There can be time blocking. So that means I do this, I'll do, so at 11 to 12, I have this workshop, right? And then from 12 to 11 to 1, I have lunch. And then from 1:30 to 2:30, I have another meeting. And then at 1 to 1:30, I have one meeting, you know? So I do this by using not Google Docs, I'm sorry. The Google Calendar, and I also use the Microsoft Calendar. But you guys can use whatever. You know, there's also planners, like physical planners. If you're a hands-on learner or a visual learner, use those ones, the ones that are hands-on. But if you're an auditory learner, use the computer ones or use the ones that's on your phone. The ones that send you reminds every time, like, oh, in 30 minutes you have this to do, you know, in 30 minutes this is due. Use those ones. So don't think that you can just use physical, you can use online, you can use a mix of both, or you can use just one depending on what type of learner you are. There's also the master list. I know Ricardo uses that one. Ricardo, our advisor here at SSSP, he has a master list. He just writes a big list of stuff that he needs to do in a day, and he just checks them off one by one. You know, I try doing that. It is really rewarding when you finish the day and you checked off everything off your list. But that for me, being a hands-on learner, kind of freaks me out because I have to constantly be crossing things out. Otherwise, if I don't cross things out in a good manner, in a timely manner, I start freaking out. Oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. If you're a hands-on learner and you're constantly checking out things like, oh, I did this, but then you get stuck on a problem or you get stuck on a task, you'll start freaking out, you'll get more anxious, and this doesn't help out in those situations. You know, so if you're a hands-on learner, I suggest not using this one, but that doesn't mean you can't. You know, there's also categorizing. Like I said, I live in a color-coded world. Everything I have is color-coded. I've always had color-coded things. I even eat candy. If I'm gonna go to a class and that class color is red, I have to eat candy that's red. You know, I'm crazy like that. I'm legit crazy like that. You don't have to be that kind of crazy. Nelson's saying yes, he does. Yes, I do. I do. You guys think I'm crazy. I'm being for real. But that's another, because I'm hands-on and hands-ons are good with chewing gum and doing things at the same time. I need to do that to associate taste with memory as well. You know, and then I color code it, so that's an extra added bonus. You know what I mean? You guys may think little things like that don't help, but they do, because you might be sitting there in your class and you're like, oh, I can't remember. And then you pop something familiar, then you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, you know? For visual learners, it's a cue, you know what I mean? It's a visual cue that you see and you're like, oh, okay, now I remember how to do this, right? For auditory learners, it's a sound. You know, if you're a visual learner, you definitely listen to music and associate them to somebody, right? There's a song and that's that person's song, right? So when you're learning and you're studying, if you associate that song to if you make a playlist and you start studying off that playlist and you go to your test and you start kind of singing songs in your head just because you sing songs in your head because you're an auditory learner, you're associating memory with the sounds, you know? But if you're a hands-on learner, like I said, chewing gum, the actual chewing the gum and the moving that you're doing, you're associating that memory with the physical task of chewing gum, or in my case, eating red candy on my red class, you know? But that's not the only way you can categorize things. You can also do it chronologically. You can do it by base how much time it will take. So if you do the master list and you know, washing my car will take me an hour, you know, but at the same time, to make food will take me 15 minutes. If you categorize things by, oh, doing this will take me an hour, so I'll put this over here at the bottom, but doing this will give me 15 minutes, definitely do that. You know, categorize by the amount of time if you're doing the daily master list. I want to go over this kind of cool figure I found from MIT. It's, in its simplicity, it's just saying that if you put the big rocks in first, everything will fit. But if you try to put small pebbles and sand into a container first, and then you try fitting in those big rocks inside, it's not gonna fit. But because if you put the big rocks in first, and then you start kind of sprinkling the sand in and kind of into the little container, you realize everything will eventually fit, you know? It's like a puzzle. I know we did all those puzzles when we were younger, you know? I have a 6-year-old brother and he does stuff like that, you know? And we may forget that we really need to be doing the most important stuff first rather than the small things, you know? But don't think that if you do start doing kind of small stuff first that you're behind. You're not. You just have to compensate, you know, by doing the big rocks. As long as you do them, they'll fit. But if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, make sure you start doing the small little tasks first. And that goes into the planning, into the making a planner and categorizing by the amount of time and categorizing by what's a higher priority. So the last thing I'm going to tell you guys before the game is that college is stressful and there's a lot of things that's gonna, I'm trying to find the word, impede, yes, on studying. There's a lot of things that prevent you from studying well, you know? And one of the big things I know for me, and I know for a lot of people I know in my classes, at my work, some students I know too from this program, is that we kind of shut down with all the stuff that happens, and we just kind of crash, because that's the easiest thing to do, is crash before you even study, and then just procrastinate. And then once you get to that point that, oh, I need to start studying, you'll start studying and the adrenaline pumps in, and then you'll start cramming things in. But again, you can't cram. If you really want to learn things, you can't cram. So the best thing to do is kind of find a good stress reliever, a good kind of method of relaxing. And I just wanted to share what I do. This kind of goes into yoga. This kind of goes into everything. But this is what we call a grounding exercise. My mom, like I said, my mom's just like a therapist, and she's very good in helping me relax because I freak out a lot. So she gave me this exercise. It's called the grounding exercise, where you just breathe, you just chill for a bit, breathe in, breathe out. I take 5 breaths in and out, and then I start with my fingers. And I'm like, okay, 5 things I see, 4 things I hear, 3 things I hear. Oh my gosh, I said that wrong. 5 things I see, 4 things I hear, 3 things I keep feeling here. 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. And once you do all that in kind of your own world, you're grounded. And how does that happen? It's because you're saying things in this moment and you're not focusing on what's gonna happen. Because it's not 5 things you're gonna see. It's 5 things you see right now. So that's why we call it a grounding exercise. It's what you see right now. It's what you feel right now. So, I'll just go by it real quick. Okay, 5 things I see. I see the board. I see my phone. I see Liza. I see my flash drive. And I see the lights here at the bottom of the podium. 4 things I feel. I can feel my hands. I can feel the kind of roughness of my watch. I can feel my hair if I wanted to. I can feel the texture of my jeans. 3 things I hear. I can hear the air. I can hear my own voice. And I can hear Freddie kind of tapping. Freddie's tapping on the desk right now. You guys can't see him, but he's tapping, right? And 2 things I can smell. I can smell my own cologne, and I can smell the breath of the yogurt I ate before coming here. And then 1 thing I taste. This is where I apply my candy or my gum. And if you taste your gum or if you taste your candy, that applies to your grounding exercise. But if you're a hands-on learner, that also applies to the muscle memory and the memory association that you do with taste and what you're studying. So this really works for me. I'm crazy, like I'm telling you. I'll just explain it real quick. Calculus is red. I have red Jolly Ranchers. Those are the cherry Jolly Ranchers. Before the test, I will be doing my grounding exercise, and the 1 thing I taste is the red Jolly Rancher. And when I'm studying, I do the same thing. So I'm associating the red Jolly Rancher with my material and calculus. You guys think I'm crazy, but it actually helps. It's a different method, and maybe not candy is gonna help you associate memory, but for sure gum is gonna release the stress. Even if you're not a hands-on learner, if you're auditory, you're a visual learner, gum definitely helps you kind of relax during a test, during a quiz, or during difficult situations. Because you're giving your body kind of a task, and it's not tensing up. Because the last thing you want to do is tense up and have your body kind of squeeze into itself. But if you're chewing gum or if you're doing something else different, you'll be okay. So before the end of this kind of presentation, I had a Kahoot, and I have prizes.
Yay.
But if you're playing virtually, you guys can still play, and if you want to claim your prizes, you have to come here to the office. Let's see. Where am I? Log in. All right. La, 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 la. Anybody have any questions or anything they wanted to add maybe?
Did you learn all this from your mom?
A lot of it my mom helped me because one thing to know about me, I'm an anxious person, and having a therapist as your mom really helped. So she'll help me kind of relax, and she'll tell me, do this, do that. You know, try doing candy. Because one semester I had 4 math classes in a row. I had them in a row. I died. I wanted to die. So in those classes, a lot of things were similar. And to distinguish them was hard, you know, because differential equations, calculus 3, matrix algebra, a lot of things apply to both of them, but at the same time, a lot of things are different. And if I start applying calculus 3 to differential equations, that's gonna suck. It is, right? It's horrible. So I did my whole Jolly Rancher thing, and since then, my mom told me the Jolly Rancher thing and associate taste with memory, and ever since then, I just haven't stopped. I don't do the Jolly Ranchers anymore, but I definitely do gum. And Nelson will tell you, I still have Jolly Ranchers in my backpack. You will always find me with candy. So okay, just give it a couple more minutes, see if everybody's in. Are you gonna play? Play. I don't see you. You can't play.
Trying to win.
Wait, somebody was in and then they left.
That's okay.
No, tampoco, Freddy. I don't have great prizes either, dude. These prizes are the best a college student can get, you know. But there we go. Oh, we have a Karina B and a Karina D. Oh, okay. Nelson, I don't see you in. Lemon squeezy? Okay. Nelson's lemon squeezy. Okay, we're gonna start. Kahoots at home. There's no sound. What's not a type of learner? Tactile, visual, statistical, or auditory? You know the best thing about Kahoot is the sound, and there's no sound.
Oh, there's plenty of buttons there. Turn them on.
Freddie, you know as much as I do. So correct, yes, it's statistical. There's no such thing as, well, there's no such thing as statistical. But there are such things as being partly tactile, there's partly visual, you know, you may be 60% visual, but you have 40% auditory. You know, you can always be a mix. Okay, so who's in first place? Anthony. Hey, okay, let's go. Auditory learners, what's the best for you to use? Reading the material, tracing the words with your finger, listening to music, or reading the instructions out loud? Oh, now you ain't gonna win nothing no more. There might be 2 correct answers.
No.
There we go. Okay. So for auditories, you guys, sounds, you know, reading the material definitely does, it might help, but it's not the best way to learn or the best way to study. Tracing things with your finger, that's for your hands-on people. You know, if you're trying to learn vocabulary, trace the vocabulary with your fingers. But if you're an auditory, definitely read it out loud. You know, say, if you hear yourself saying the instructions, that's gonna help you. And you can listen to music, but that's a little tricky one because, like I said, can't listen to Cardi B, can't listen to Bad Bunny, stuff like that. You have to listen to kind of chill music, you know? Exactly. Okay, so let's see who's up. Hey, Anthony's still there. I see the lemon squeezy catching up. Mayra. Okay. Tactile learners should not use this type of strategy. Draw pictures, rock in your chair, read instructions out loud, or use the space method. I think this one's probably the hardest question. I think from here on out, they're just kind of, they get a little silly, but I wanted to freak you guys out. Okay. So there's 2 correct answers. Tactile learners can draw pictures. Definitely the movement helps. Oh no, should not use this strategy. I apologize. Tactile learners do not draw pictures. Those are for your visuals. Reading instructions out loud. That was last question. Those are your auditory ones. But definitely, if you need to move around, move around. Space method, that's the one that I use where I move around and I give my body a break, you know, so I don't tense up. Ooh, Ashley. Está copiando. Okay, visual learners are the best at remembering by listening to music, color coding, by studying, questioning, reciting, reviewing, and reading, or applying the Feynman method. There we go. So only one person chose listening to music. Yeah, that's the incorrect one. Your visual learners don't learn by listening to music. And the Feynman technique, that's the technique I was telling you guys where you explain stuff to a 12-year-old, to somebody who doesn't know. And that's where your auditory learners. You know, but the visual learners, color coding for sure, and studying, questioning, reciting, reviewing, you know, make sure you write things down. If you see your own notes, if you can see your notes and see the material, definitely helps you better. Damn, Anthony's just on a roll here. Freddie, what happened? You're not there no more.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, next question. What's a good way to study? Space practice, Feynman technique, cramming, SQ3R. ¿Qué pasó?
It disconnected?
Yeah,
I got it.
What?
Wait, what?
Oh. Huh. So, everybody got messed up points on this one. There was a corruption. There was a keyword missing here. What's not a good way to study. But it's fine. Everybody lost out on points, so we're fine. Okay, so everybody's still standing. The 3 R's of SQ3R do not include, this one has not, okay? Revise, reading, reciting, or reviewing. Sorry, I did that. Revising, yes, it does not include revising. You definitely read, right? That's the third step after you're surveying and after you're surveying and you're questioning, then you read it, and then once you read it, then you take notes on it, you recite it, and then once you recite it, then you start reviewing on it. But revising is not a step, although you can revise whatever part of the method, revising is not a step of the method. Anthony, what happened, Anthony? Congratulations, La Liza, 3rd place. Okay. Lemon Squeezy coming back in the leaderboard. I have prizes for the top 5 people, so.
What about top 10?
There's only 12 people, Freddie. The Feynman technique is a method of explaining a subject to a 12-year-old, then reflecting and refining. True or false? We'll find out now. True. Hey, great. Everybody got that. So we're just gonna move on. Cool. Everybody stay the same. Quiz. What can you do for a break while using the space practice studying method? Watch a movie, stretch, do yoga, listen to music, do more homework. And if you're taking a break and you do more homework, that doesn't count as a break, guys. Okay, just gonna give you guys the answer right now. There we go. Yeah, the reason why you can't watch a movie is because watching a movie takes up too much time. Space practice, you need to kind of do something small. Stretch, do yoga, listen to music. Even watch a TV show. You can do a TV show, but not a movie. Okay. Lemon Squeezy is making a comeback with 3 in a row. Okay. Gang. Okay, last question. Who presented this workshop? What's my name? Am I Jacob, James, Jasmine, or Jesus?
Where's my name up there?
I went with the J thing.
Yeah.
I went with Jane. I went with the J. So I don't know if you guys know Jacob's a math. Yes, there we go. So Jacob and James are also math tutors, and Jasmine's our English tutor. It's crazy. There's 4 people working here with J's. Yeah, it's fun. Okay, let's see. Da-da-da-da. Third place is Liza. Second place, Anthony. Hey. In first place, Lemon Squeezy. I know. Ashley D. So, and in fourth place was Jesus Avila. Congratulations. And fifth place was Lemon Squeezy, Nelson himself. But yeah, other than that, that's the end of my presentation. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. If you guys want some, let me just make sure I have everybody who's here right now that stayed. I just want to take a quick picture of the people. I took a picture earlier too, but I just want to take another picture right now, just in case. And yeah, for sure, if you guys have any other questions or anything else, you guys, oh, okay. Karina had to, I'm sorry, Karina. But I didn't see it till now. But for sure, like I said, I'm a math tutor here. You guys know where to find me. You guys know where my email is. If you guys want the presentation, just let me know and I'll send you guys a presentation. But other than that, thank you. Thank you for attending and see you guys around. Bye.